Welcome to the Aced It podcast, where we turn science into sense. This is the 14th season of Aced It, and we are so incredibly grateful that we are able to deliver rich scientific content to you in a usable and understandable way. Aced It is brought to you via the Justice Community Overdose Innovation Network, or JCOIN. If you're new to Aced It, welcome. We're so glad you're here. And check out the prior seasons to begin or continue your learning journey. A special thank you to every wonderful listener. We promise we will continue working to help you learn and grow via Aced It. Also, a quick plug for a few other JCOIN features. Did you know you can get technical assistance for your organization from the experts at JCOIN? And did you know you can apply for a small research grant to help fund an innovative study idea? Yep, through JCOIN. And did you know you can apply to be a JCOIN LEAP scholar or investigator, a year-long mentorship that will improve your skills? Also through, you got it, JCOIN. If any or all of these exciting offerings sound interesting, check out our website, jcoinctc.org, and learn about the many JCOIN courses, products, and opportunities beyond Aced It, all designed to translate science into sense for you. With that, I am honored that you're with us. I'm Danielle Rudes, your host, and this is Aced It. Welcome to episode 8 of season 14 of the Aced It podcast, about the stories we tell about drugs and overdose. This season, we're exploring the narratives told about drugs and overdose, who gets to tell them, and the narratives they choose to spread. Ultimately, these narratives shape stigma, guide policy responses, and affect access to treatment. Today, we're going to talk about actors in the criminal legal system. Police officers, probation officers, judges, attorneys, and correctional staff encounter substance use and overdose regularly. Because of that, the way these professionals talk about drugs and the assumptions they carry into their work can have a powerful influence on how society responds to substance use. These professionals are often positioned on the front lines, responding to issues such as the opioid crisis. But their role is not just about enforcing laws or implementing policy. These criminal legal professionals shape the broader narratives about substance use, responsibility, treatment, and punishment. To understand why these narratives matter, it helps to first recognize just how deeply substance use in the criminal legal system intersect. Substance use disorders are extremely common among people who move through jails, prisons, probation, and parole. Many individuals enter the system with untreated substance use disorders, while others become involved simply just trying to navigate incarceration. According to research by Gerber and colleagues, 2026, an estimated 85% of people involved in the criminal legal system have some connection to substance use, whether through a formal diagnosis, drug-related charges, or offenses committed while under the influence. Because of this overlap, criminal legal professionals encounter substance use constantly throughout their careers. Police officers respond to overdose calls in the community. Probation officers supervise people trying to recover while navigating the conditions of supervision. Correctional staff manage substance use inside facilities where drugs continue to circulate. Judges and attorneys see case after case where addiction plays a central role in someone's life. Over time, repeated exposure to these experiences can shape how professionals interpret substance use, how they share them with their colleagues, how they share them in court, and share them with the broader public. That is important. One common theme in research on criminal legal professionals' attitudes toward substance use is stigma. In the context of addiction, stigma often appears as the belief that people who use drugs are irresponsible, dangerous, or incapable of making a recovery from drugs. For example, a study conducted by Reichert and colleagues 2023 revealed that police officers across multiple Illinois departments held fairly moderately stigmatizing views toward people with opioid use disorder. Officers in the study reported beliefs related to blame, distrust, and assumptions that people with addictions may be dangerous or responsible for their condition. These kinds of attitudes are not limited to policing. Other research examining criminal legal professionals more broadly, including probation officers, correctional staff, and court personnel, found that people who held more stigmatizing views toward justice-involved individuals were also more likely to have negative attitudes toward medications used to treat opioids. That comes from Moore and colleagues, 2022. In other words, the kinds of stigmatizing beliefs identified in Reichert and colleagues' 2023 study can extend beyond how professionals think about people who use drugs. As Moore and colleagues suggest, those beliefs can also shape how professionals view treatment itself, including whether they support evidence-based medication designed to help people recover. Police are often among the first to respond to overdose emergencies, despite research suggesting that police feel a sense of responsibility when it comes to overdose responses. Other studies find that these feelings are not consistent. For example, in a study of first responders and emergency personnel, Cruz and colleagues 2022 found that participants, once again, held a slight negative attitude toward evidence-based medication, but this time against naloxone, a drug proven to save lives. Cruz and colleagues conclude that most of these negative attitudes were significantly influenced by stigma toward people who use opioids. Cruz and Merlo, 2021, had also previously looked at more than 200 police officers working in the departments in a northeastern region of the United States that had very similar findings. Stigma was a significant factor in determining police officer attitudes and administration of naloxone. These issues can also appear inside of correctional facilities. Jails and prisons have increasingly begun exploring treatment-based responses to opioid use, including medication for opioid use disorders, often referred to as MOUD. These medications are widely considered the most effective treatments for opioid use disorder, but Moore and colleagues 2022 found that correctional staff were also among those who had negative and stigmatizing beliefs toward medication treatment for justice-involved individuals. However, it is important to note that organizational factors can very well shape these perspectives. For example, Riccardelli and colleagues 2024 conducted a study on correctional officers and their perspectives on overdose prevention sites in prison. While many correctional officers understood the need for harm reduction strategies, they were overwhelmed with the sense that they just did not have clear directives and policies to effectively help someone. On the flip side, however, a mixed method study of jail staff found that facilities with stronger organizational readiness to deal with substance use issues and training programs that provided information on these issues were more likely to report positive attitudes toward medication for opioid use disorder. Findings from Riccardelli and colleagues, as well as Michener and colleagues 2024, both reaffirm our understanding of how criminal legal professionals view opioid use, overdose, and treatment. It all just really depends on what people know. But institutions can evolve when they provide the right education and resources to individuals who are trying to navigate these issues. We see organizational factors also affect community supervision departments such as probation and parole. In additional research conducted by Reichert and Gleicher, 2019, they examined some of the barriers seen by officers in probation departments, specifically by those who have individuals with opioid use disorders in their care. Staff talked about a wide range of barriers, such as lack of medical personnel, money, lack of training, and policies that prohibit any type of treatment through medication. Similar concerns about training were highlighted by Bellesi and colleagues in 2025, where most officers were familiar with naloxone, but many reported needing more and consistent training to clear up and address any or all of their misconceptions. These everyday decisions require quick and effective responses, and we cannot help support people in recovery if we do not have the knowledge or tools to respond appropriately. Judges and courts also contribute to the narrative surrounding substance use and overdose. Courtrooms are spaces where complex issues must be interpreted through vague and confusing legal frameworks. These interpretations can influence how cases are handled, including sentencing. Desai and colleagues 2019 conducted an experimental study on judicial decision-making. They reached out to more than 3,000 and received about 67 responses from state and federal court judges. Let me just say, that's incredible work. But through their work, they found that when defendants were described as having an opioid use disorder, judges were more likely to view them as likely to reoffend and less capable of making rational decisions compared to defendants with no history of an opioid use disorder. These findings remind us that the way substance use is understood inside courtrooms can shape how people are judged and what opportunities they are given. So today, we discussed how criminal legal professionals like police officers, probation officers, correctional officers, and judges help shape the narratives surrounding substance use. Research suggests that stigma can influence how addiction is understood, whether harm reduction strategies are supported, and even how treatment options are viewed. We also saw how these perceptions can appear in everyday decisions, from responding to overdose to deciding whether someone should receive treatment or punishment. And to be clear, we recognize that criminal legal professionals face incredibly difficult situations and carry enormous responsibility in their work. Our respect is with them. But when addiction is viewed primarily through a blameworthy lens, harm reduction strategies can be easily misunderstood. Instead of being seen as tools that keep people alive, they may be perceived as enabling drug use. In reality, the goal of harm reduction is much simpler: preventing the loss of someone who is part of a family, a neighborhood, and/or a community. Because at the end of the day, the stories we tell about drugs and overdose do not just shape policy. They shape whether individuals get a chance to survive long enough to experience recovery. That's all for today's episode. Thank you for joining us, and as always, we'll see you next time on Aced It. Thank you so much for listening to the Aced It podcast. We love hearing from you, so if you have comments, topics to suggest, or some science you'd like us to cover in a future season, please write to me, Danielle Rudes at Sam Houston State University. My email is drudes@shsu.edu. And of course, thank you to the Justice Community Overdose Innovation Network, JCOIN's Coordination and Translation Center, funded by the National Institute on Drug Abuse, housed at George Mason University, where this podcast originated. Thank you to our fabulous scriptwriter team and also my fabulous doctoral students at Sam Houston State University, Bryce Kushmerek-McCune, Jalen Magana, and Alexa Mata. And a huge and a heartfelt thank you to the team at Slonky LLC for their wonderful podcast production as always. Tune in again soon for another episode of Aced It.